You're listening to Silicon Edge's Spotlight Interview Series. Now, here's your host, James Santagata.
FCI, or the frame creation industry. This is a term I've developed to characterize the literal industry which creates the lenses, the filters, the frames by which we interpret events around us. And they help define and determine what frames, lenses, or filters are approved and which ones are verboten. Now, some quick examples of the industries or associations, organizations involved in this frame creation include Hollywood, Madison Avenue, the controlled media, that's commonly known as the mass media or the mainstream media, the Academy Awards or Oscars, Nobel Prizes, Pulitzer Prizes, and so on. These frames can be both positive or negative. They can uplift, or they can also shackle, restrain, or enslave. Now, once a frame has been created, it needs to be continuously maintained and reinforced. And in many cases, it can also be expanded far beyond its original definition, yet the emotional or psychological impact will remain as strong or stronger as with the original, more narrow definition. Now, here are some major participants or agents in the FMI or frame maintenance industry. We've got teachers, professors, priests, rabbis, pastors, your parents, friends, neighbors, relatives, and so on. Many, of course, may be well-meaning and not even realize that they are part of this industry or process. So whoop-de-doo, why should anyone care, let alone us? Why should we care about frames? Well, frames are critical to understand, for any number of reasons, what's happening in the world. First, they help determine what we see or what we ignore, how we think, what options we're allowed to consider, how we respond, how we can respond, how we can't, and then based on these options, what we decide. There's massive impact based on these frames. Beyond this, many frames have actually been weaponized. This is what I call frame weaponization, the weaponization of frames. And these are very common. They're almost a rant on many of the college campuses for the last 20 or 30 years. But they go like this: racist, bigot, misogynist, homophobe, xenophobe. What do those really mean? Well, the definition has continued to expand for over 30 years. So after the frames have been weaponized, the definition of each, which started very narrow, is then widened. And after being weaponized, many of these frames have also had the same emotional or psychological power, but now they can be triggered by innocuous actions. Let's take racism, for example. Disparaging comments, however distasteful, about any particular religion are now deemed racist, even though religion's not a race, obviously. And in many cases, the adherents of that religion may not be restricted to a particular race as well, right? Many allow for conversion or even proselytize. So it's quite interesting. Now, a contrived character is a term that we've developed to describe how, by using what we call frame coupling or frame tying, another party or person or individual can use one or a series of daisy-chained weaponized frames to further taint, distort, or destroy something good, beneficial, or innocuous. Now, Hollywood is a master of this realm, and it's not by mistake, it's not by accident. They work very, very hard and diligently at this. Now, here's how it works. Let's start with something really innocuous, say the Pythagorean theorem. Now, you may remember this one from high school, right? The square of the hypotenuse, which is the opposite side of the right triangle, is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. But rather than me do that, let's listen to Solomon Kahn of the Khan Academy quickly walk us through the Pythagorean theorem.
And let me tell you what the Pythagorean theorem is. So if we have a triangle, and the triangle has to be a right triangle. So it has to be a right triangle, which means that one of the three angles in the triangle have to be 90 degrees. And you specify that it's 90 degrees by drawing that little box right there. So that right there is, let me do this in a different color. That right there is a 90 degree angle, or we could call it a right angle.
Pretty innocuous, no? Now, we can probably all agree that the Pythagorean theorem is innocuous. But let's turn up the heat a bit. Let's turn up the emotions. Let's trigger the frames which have already been implanted inside you and me, especially in the West. If you're in America, these will resonate very strongly with you if you were acculturated in America. These have been implanted by the frame creation, control, and maintenance industry, and they are jealously guarded and zealously maintained. All of these frames have been weaponized, so buckle your seatbelt. First one, Christian cross. Any reaction? The Red Cross. How about Roman artwork in Spain before the Nazis? How about Buddhist symbology in Japan? I know a number of people have been shocked to see that either on signage of maps or at the actual temple or on the way to the temple. Any reaction? Any pre-programmed reactions that are coming forth? All right, now let's trigger the emotions by setting the ambience.
Der Führer ist die Partei und die Partei ist der Führer. So.
Let's look at this weaponized frame. Okay, now let's take the weaponized frame plus add it with innocuous concept, the Pythagorean theorem. And this is what we get. Even the Pythagorean theorem sounds racist when you look like this. Even quantum physics sounds racist when you look like this. Even E equals MC squared sounds racist when you look like this. I'm talking about CAPM, the capital asset pricing model. You sound like a racist, bro. Influencing, persuading, and actually outright programming humans to do one's bidding is really a lot easier and more foolproof than anyone may imagine that hasn't studied the field. It's made even easier as most humans think themselves to be impervious or above such efforts. Reality is we're all just binary people, you and me. Now this is from Joe and the Volcano. My father says that almost the whole world is asleep. Everybody you know, everybody you see, everybody you talk to. He says that only a few people are awake and they live in a total amazement. We're living in a digital world with digital laws of zeros and ones. A little bit of markup language here, a little bit of syntax there, and we can be programmed very rapidly, very effectively, as we've all seen before when we've paid attention. So this is what Trump is facing, some extremely powerful weaponized frames used against him, or which they try to use against him, which come from the frame creation industry. And then many times, of course, he's facing the frame maintenance industry as well. But Trump, from his performance, has proven himself to be very agile, psychologically and intellectually agile, and he's using a number of tools and techniques where he literally, no pun intended, is able to either neutralize these or move them to his benefit. So what exactly is he doing? Again, let's review the 10 things. He's using authenticity or being authentic, frame control, reframing, challenging the frame. He doesn't seek approval. He doesn't seek validation. He avoids the ego box trap. He avoids the consistency trap. He's almost always multimodal, or he exhibits multimodalities, and he avoids the apology trap. Now, next up, let's watch the frame maintenance industry in action. Here's a brilliant little clip featuring Dr. Drew, who you may know, as he tries to reframe an individual, as well as smear her, and other people like her, as well as Trump supporters in general. Let's watch closely to see if you can catch it. Again, there's very heavy reframing.
He's been called out on lies, left and right.
You don't look like a Trump supporter to me. When people think about Trump supporters.
All right, did you catch all that? So here's Dr. Drew's reframe. One, he doesn't address or want her to address why she supports Trump. He only tries to shame her with the script. Dr. Drew says, "You don't look like a Trump supporter." Look? Who looks like a Trump supporter? The translation of what he said effectively is, you are black and you are female. Specifically a black female. Therefore, you shouldn't be supporting Trump. Now, how could she, if she wanted to, or if we wanted to, or chose to in that situation, how could you break his frame? How could you reframe it? Well, there's a few delicious ways to do it. Now, it would have been really delicious to see her do something like this. When he said, you don't look like a Trump supporter, she could use this particular script. Because I'm black? Or because I'm a female? Or because I'm a black female? One of the most racist and misogynistic things I've heard in the last few years. And then use a derisive laugh. By doing that, you're evoking these weaponized frames back against Drew. Black, racist. Female, misogynist. Then you repeat it again, black female, which is again racist and misogynistic. And then you use the term of the frame, racist and misogynistic. So you're effectively attacking him 3 times with 2 different weaponized frames. And laughing, which makes you surfer cool as well.
Help me understand this. What is he? What? Just in a word or in a sentence?
Truth.
Truth.
That's not true.
And let me ask this. Have you felt like your truth has been sort of marginalized, or you've been shut down by the current sort of prevailing
The current
winds?
politicians have said what they needed to say during elections to get elected. Once they are elected, they don't take your phone
No,
calls.
hold on.
I agree. I actually agree.
It seems to me.
And they don't-
hang on.
they're not telling
There's
the
some
truth.
feeling he's tapping
Yes.
into. What is the feeling?
Truth.
No. What's the?
No.
Are you angry?
I'm angry
Okay,
because
it's anger.
Yes,
You're
okay.
and what are you angry about? You're angry that you're not being.
Dr. Drew comes back again with this reframe. Again, doesn't want to know what she's thinking, but doesn't care, of course. He's in the frame maintenance industry. So he comes up with this, what is Trump tapping into? And she says, truth. No, he explains. Trump and truth, surely that's not possible. What's the feeling? Get it? The feeling. He doesn't want to know the reason. He wants to know the feeling, of course. And then once he's got the feeling, he can move her down his path. And what does he do? He leads her to say anger. And of course, she being probably a very good person, hasn't studied this, falls right into his trap and allows him to label her angry, and then agrees with it as well. Now, why would he want to call her angry? Because angry people are easily marginalized. Angry people are easily marginalized. All right? And just to go back to history, I like to bring up Germany quite a bit. You'll hear quite a bit about Adolf Hitler, etc. If you actually go back and look at many of the raw footage, pictures, etc., you'll never see it in the West. You've got to really dig down. Hitler was not selling a vision of hatred and a murder and so on. Okay, he was selling hopes and dreams and change. Right? People don't want to hear anger and that type of thing for a long period of time. They want something that's going to bring them up and move them forward. It's just a fact of the way that humans are. So it's always a bit disingenuous or really moronic when people try to present these 2-dimensional cardboard characters of historical figures that have had an impact on the world. I'm not saying he's good or bad. I'm simply saying it's not an accurate characterization of how he was speaking or leading the country. Now, what would have been a good reframe for her? What's a couple good reframes? Can you think of any? I'd suggest she could daisy chain two other reframes together. How about this? Feeling? Dr. Drew, I told you my reason. Truth. So what exactly do you want me to say? Now, he would be caught right in the open, flat-footed on that one, and he'd probably say, oh, no, of course I want you to speak freely. I'm not trying to tell you what to say. And of course he would try again to force her down the anger path. And by the way, in the first clip I forgot to mention and comment, if you notice, he tries to develop rapport and comfort immediately by using a lot of kinesthetic touch, a lot of kino, and rubbing her shoulder and the back of her neck, which in my mind is inappropriate touching of a woman anyways that he doesn't even know. But that was the purpose of that particular action. Okay? And then when Dr. Drew springs his little trap, you're angry, aren't you? The perfect reply would have been, Dr. Drew, you sure seem to be projecting a lot today. First the black thing, then the female thing, and now this. Is everything okay at home? It's a brilliant reframe because what you've done again is you've accused him of projecting everything he told you, that he's angry. Again, you've evoked two other weaponized frames, the black thing, the female thing, which is both the racism and misogyny. And of course you could call those out and repeat those one more time using those words. Then you question the ability to maintain a stable home. Is everything okay at home? Right? So then he has to respond to that, or he's been reframed and tainted as well.
People feel shut down, which is what your anger was. Where are you? You're out there. There you are. Your anger has been shut down, hasn't it? Right? You were, and now it's been mobilized, right? And there's something that happens in therapy is when people, you sort of bring out their real feelings. They get very enthusiastic about those feelings.
The most amazing thing, again, is if you look at what he's done in this final clip, the woman has already stated her interest and support for Trump as due to or coming from her perception, and she could be wrong, but this is her perception, that Trump was truthful and that he was authentic and would do what he was going to say. But instead, Drew reframes this in such a way that she's angry. Then in the second clip, he actually further tarnishes her and all the Trump supporters by tying this frame into his work as a clinician with patients who are in therapy. Therefore, you're angry, you're in therapy. Therapy, you must be, if you're in therapy, you must be angry. And then, therefore, if you're angry or in therapy or vice versa, since they're tied together, you support Trump. If you support Trump, you're angry and you should be in therapy if you're not already. The implication, I see nuts like you, like her, in my daily practice. That's what he's saying. Now, breaking down his frame and taking him out, there's two ways you could do this, and they're both delicious. First one is to challenge his authority frame as a doctor, and of course as the host of that show. But you would do it by simply questioning and exposing his profession as both dubious and often malodorous, even in the recent past. And two quick examples. The APA's DSM considered homosexuality a sociopathic personality disturbance for over 2 decades. And then, of course, after those 2 decades, they reversed and said it wasn't, which brings up a couple things. Were they lying to begin with, and they're incompetent, or are they disingenuous? So they're either lying or they're incompetent. But then if they've changed it, again, you've got the same thing to choose from. So something doesn't add up very well. That really discredits them both ways. And I'm not saying that homosexuality is a personality disturbance. I'm simply saying that shows you how corrupt and incompetent, or how political the APA is. Now, that's the American Psychiatric Association. With the American Psychological Association, they've got their own problems. You may have seen this recently. Some of their psychologists architected and participated in very abusive interrogation techniques, including waterboarding, sexual humiliation, and sleep deprivation. Is that really something that a doctor should do to harm people? Would you really want a Joseph Mengele coming in and doing things, vivisection? I mean, this is really crossing the line. So then, to do our own little reframe, we could discuss a few of those facts about the psychologist or psychiatrist, which would tie in and tarnish Dr. Drew, and also call into question all of his motivations as well.
I saw it on 60 Minutes. They did a profile on Carolyn Kennedy. Hello. Look at these people. Boy, what a bunch of losers, I'll tell you. You are a loser. You really are a loser. Now, get him out. You know, it's so staged. They put him in different corners. So staged. Really are a loser. Sad. It's sad. Because we're all here to make America great again. We're not here. We don't have to listen to this stuff. But I have to tell you, I see what these guys do, and they stage it because they only have a few of them. These guys will make it sound like it's a big deal. There's like 3 people so far, 4 people.
Let's look here how Trump dominates. In this case, we had the protester in the previous clip trying to interrupt his rally and speech. A couple things you'll notice right away. One, stays completely calm. He's in complete control of his environment and frame. Hey, we're trying to make America great again. 2 implications. America's no longer great, that's why I'm needed. That juxtapositions him against all of the other candidates, both in the GOP and against the Democrat Party. And B, you, Mr. Protester, you protesters are bringing America down and impeding our work, so get the hell out of here. Hit the road, Jack. And he maintains order like a leader. Right? He's maintaining that like a leader and showing what he can do. This taps into a lot of issues with sociobiology and evolutionary psychology when people look up to these types of figures.
So, the president of Mexico yesterday, or the ex-president, or whatever, whoever, who cares, he said, we will not even consider paying for the wall. You have to understand, because, okay, you ready? Who's going to pay for the wall? Who? 100%. 100%. So I get a call from one of the reporters yesterday, and they said, the president of Mexico said they will not, under any circumstances, pay for the wall. They said to me, what is your comment? I said, the wall just got 10 feet higher. It's true. It's true.
Okay, if you look at that previous clip where he was talking about the wall, very fascinating how he dominates. Number one, he has complete control of his environment and the frame. I'm building a wall between the US and Mexico, and I'm sending the bill to Mexico. End of story. Done. Right? That is the emperor's frame, and that is his divine right. When he then mentions a reporter who called up to get his reaction, challenging him, saying the Mexican president has refused to pay, Trump doesn't argue. He just doesn't care. Again, why not? He assumes the emperor frame and invokes divine right, and he uses a presumption clause. Guess what? It just got 10 feet higher. So effectively, he knows when to fight head on, and he knows when to conserve energy or motion and sidestep. Very brilliant and very powerful framing. Love him or hate him, this resonates with people psychologically as well with our hard wiring through both evolutionary psychology and sociobiology. Now, let's get into the last piece. Recapping one more time, why does Trump triumph? And again, I'll go through 10 quick things. There's some other things as well, but again, authenticity or being authentic. Must be. He's saying some extremely unpopular things. If you are basically saying things that everyone likes, we wonder if you are authentic or not. Right? Same as dating. If you're with a beautiful woman and you're agreeing with everything she says, people have to wonder, does he really agree with everything that she says and they're soulmates? Or is he just trying to get inside on her good graces But if you're saying things against what she says, challenging, arguing, probing, this guy must be authentic. Either he hates me or he must be authentic. I mean, why would he be doing that? No guy does that. Same with a politician. So the very fact that he's doing this shows his authenticity. You may not like the programs or plans that he has or platform, but it shows it. The other thing is, we are not just defined by what we say and what we like. We're defined as much or more so by who likes us or who hates us. And every time he's attacked by the controlled media, and he either parries it or redirects it and so on, his standing goes up. His standing goes up. Now, he has frame control, very strong frame control, really strong reframing ability, always challenges the frame. He knows how to add in context. He doesn't seek approval. You never see him seeking approval. Doesn't seek validation. He always avoids the ego box trap, avoids the consistency trap. What do I mean by that? Donald Trump, will you do X, Y, and Z? If you lose within the GOP primary, will you right now agree that you will not be an independent? What does he say? No, I'm not going to say that. I'm keeping my options open. Brilliant. Avoiding the consistency trap. He also does this by being multimodal or having multi-modalities, right? Just like you have the number of outfits of clothes or suits or whatever in your closet, blue jeans, going to the gym, board shorts, a formal tuxedo and so on. We have the same thing for both activities, personalities, and frames. Sometimes he's a doting father. I was talking to my daughter and she said, Daddy, don't be so mean to these people. He was rude to me. Daddy, be nice. He goes back and forth between these frames. Very brilliant. And finally, he avoids the apology trap. Within Western society, especially within America, if you give a heartfelt apology, the other party's expected to accept that and be magnanimous. Okay? If they turn around and use that as ha ha ha, and use that to further say, oh, you've proved you're wrong, or use that to try to denigrate you or shame you, don't even give him an apology. He knows the controlled media will do that, so he doesn't play the game. Screw you, I won't apologize. Bottom line, you owe me an apology. And that's what he does. Very brilliant, and this is extremely strong within the human brain, triggering people that will either like you or at least follow you.
Thanks for listening. This program has been a presentation of Silicon Edge. Silicon Edge is personalized innovation for your competitive edge. Innovate, communicate, transform. Only at silicon-edge.com.